Greetings all, Gerald Clark with Seventh Planet Broadcasting. Today is January 21st, 2020. And Christa last night told me she wanted to share some inspiring data from a series of books called The Masters of the Far East. So say hello, and what are you going to share today?
Hi everyone, I'm happy to be here with you. And the Masters of the Far East, it came into our life a while ago, actually, through when the Dakotas of Truth first started years ago, I believe.
It was several years ago.
Through Marlene in Tonkas in
Yeah.
Dharamshala. Anyway, she introduced the Masters of the Far East to the group, and we listened to them on audio to begin, and then we ordered the set. And then we actually sent a set to my parents, and they're reading it again too.
Yeah, keep talking. I'm going to show people where the audio is online by sharing the screen here. I think this is a good place.
Well, it's a series of 6 books, and they're really fantastic. They're really great spiritual knowledge, and you could just read one book and meditate on portions of it throughout the year.
Yeah. And actually, they're available on YouTube as well. I just went to my YouTube channel. I noticed I added them to my watch list here. So there's all 3 of them here. So it's about 20 through 24 hours to see all of it, if you want to do it that way. Okay. So just look that up on YouTube. Life and Teachings of the Master of Far East. Okay. So what did you discover now we've read this before, but every time you go back and read something this profound, something new hits you, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What got you this time?
Well, the general theme that got me this time was...
And which book were you in?
Well, currently I'm in book number 2, and I actually started reading them like last year, but I just got so absorbed in the first book. It just blows your mind so much. You keep reading different parts, and then the second book I kind of reached a stopping point, so I've recently picked it up again. And I'd say the general main theme that you pick up is that whether it's you or me or this couch or the plants outside or the cat or the dog or a kid, that we all have the God particle within us. And in that sense, we're all connected and we're all one. And there's many different teachings on, the teachings of the oneness.
Yeah.
And so that one really reigns true. And then the other part being that, just the divine aspects within ourselves that we haven't tapped into necessarily, fully realizing the God within ourselves and the miracles that, or what seems to be miracles that we could then tap into.
It seems like each time I read those books, I am convinced that this whole populace of people were having the kind of experiences that Jesus was having. Healing raising people from the dead, healing the sick, all the stuff they talked about in the Masters of the Far East, they were doing that too. And it made me think, well, maybe we are more than what we've been taught to be in terms of our co-creative abilities to do this kind of stuff, because they make you believe it after reading this book. And then you feel like a little bit like you're missing out unless you're ensconced in their culture, that you may never figure out how to be a complete co-creator with a co-creator of all, like you were intended to be. That's how I usually end up, and I'm like, oh, I guess I got to go to India. So,
but they also teach you that it's within. So, and you teach that too.
well, so this recent inspiration that you found, is it? You want to share that one?
Sure. There's the most recent one, and then there's another really good one that starts. I almost want to start with that. It talks about Jesus studying with Osiris and Thoth. And
start with that one.
So I always think you'd be great to talk to on that point.
Yeah, anything to do with the connecting of the Atlantean culture, the Egyptian culture, with the Anunnaki.
There's a lot.
Usually lights me up, and you see that in this one and other ones too. So this one's really great that way. So go ahead, do that one.
So it's talking about Jesus and saying it's very well known that he being Jesus, embraced all their teachings, going through the initiations and studying the so-called sacred mysteries, the ritualistic forms and ceremonies, until he came to the teachings of Osiris. These were interpreted to him by a priest who had held himself aloof from all the ritualistic, monastic, and materialistic forms of worship. The priest was a follower of King Thoth, of the first dynasty of the Egyptian kings. When King Thoth declared Egypt an empire, he did it under the power of a dictator and a usurper of the people's rights. And then it goes on and talks about how he followed under Osiris, and then he went on to India, and he also learned the Buddhistic teachings, and there was a great similar, underlying the teachings that he found from Thoth and Osiris and the Buddhistic teachings, and
isn't that something?
And then he thought, in spite of all the ritualistic forms and dogmas that have been imposed by man and religion, that he learned that from all these different teachings to go straight from the heart and to go directly to God within. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I was kind of surprised to see the similarities between the teachings of Thoth, Jesus, and especially those two, because they showed up in the lost teachings of Atlantis. As Thoth being the founder of their order and the last incarnation of that energy that was Thoth, they said was Jesus, who was their last master of the order. This is John Peniel's book. Anyway, so there's a good crossover between John Peniel's book, The Lost Teachings of Atlantis, and this book. So, but here, I just want to make commentary about who these beings are showing up. So here we see the Atlantean civilization with Thoth and his father Enki, Osiris, and somehow Thoth becomes the king in Egypt, where he's, according to the Emerald Tablets, he's there to raise hairy barbarians to the light. So it all starts weaving together, and they're all saying the same thing. So really, really fantastic. What else?
Yeah, then he goes on and talks about, Osiris was born in Atlantis more than 35,000 years ago. The chronicles of his life, long after his time, called him a god because of his wonderful works. He was a direct descendant of those of the higher thought who had kept their concepts clear in the motherland of man. And it was so the great portion of all the mythological characters that have been brought down to us, their works and characters have been distorted by repetition and translation of the stories concerning them. And they were saying basically that we end up idolizing and Buddha and Osiris, that we end up deifying them as an ideal and not as taking their teachings into our hearts.
And being them.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
35,000 years ago in Atlantis. So there's another good connection between some of the most profound teachings I've found in the like with the masters of the Far East. They seem to have connections with the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
That's the trippy part.
Yeah, and they seem to live forever.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and it's studying the teachings of us, just like you're teaching your books, studying the teachings of Osiris, Buddha, and Jesus, you'll find many similarities. In fact, at times you'll find the exact same words used. Yet did they copy? And the teachings show them in ways from the outer to the inner, and then they must have dropped all teaching, all copying, so they didn't copy each other, and they must have gone beyond it all, and connecting through their same experience through the inner kingdom within, and then connecting into that true source of information that we all can kind of tune in and tap into, and that's kind of how we see the crossover. In some ways is what this was saying. What do you think of that? That we can tune into that infinite source of information.
I think in all the spiritual teachings point to and you can give it different labels, but I really like the universal consciousness label.
Me too.
You can think of it as a frequency realm, where if your brain was on the right frequency, then you could tap into that. And it's a realm of all intelligence and all the experience cumulative. So some people call this the Akashic record kind of thing. but I think they're talking about the same thing. And it's an interesting thing in that as you get closer in relationship with your higher self, getting out of your own way to allow whatever's supposed to happen in your life, you might dabble into experiencing universal consciousness. And people that take hallucinogenic drugs stumble into this. And Timothy Leary said it was LSD for him, and psilocybin mushrooms for other people, but it gives you this temporary experience of, I would say, a brainwave change, chemically induced. It allows you to experience universal consciousness, which is a frequency of intelligence which we return to when we give up the meat modem, right?
Right.
So that's how I see it. But yeah, and this book convinces you that by the examples of the people that are living this way, that manifesting your own food might be possible, walking on water might be not inconceivable.
Things that we conceive as
remote traveling,
miracles are normal to them, right?
Yeah. Traveling, leaving your avatar in one place and going to another, coming back. So I guess you could say this is spatial or time travel that they're able to do. So they've gotten to the place where they understand the holographic reality so well that they can play by the rules of it. So
yeah, leaving their form in one spot, traveling to another. It's amazing.
I think, and this is just, remember, this is the second book. About where you are in the second book, they're a third of the way in. They start redefining what Christianity meant relative to this perspective that they hold. And it was the first time that I truly understood that they were all really saying the same thing. And that what we got was a really bad version of that growing up. But the hidden parts that really resonate as true, I don't even know why they left them in there. I guess they had to.
They even have in I think it's in the second chapter of this book, a whole series on, we could even make a separate thing on that, but it's all about manifesting your desires or your dreams. It gives you specific language to say and to speak and to do and how to do it. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
There was one part that I came across just the other night. And sometimes in our lives we have times where we reach a point where it feels like it's dark or there's no one there and we're cleaning, and so this is kind of calling out to that point.
Oh, okay.
So he's talking about how, to step out and to serve your community and to hang on even when it seems like no one's there. So he's saying even when you must be able to withhold the cry of the love and fear as the words, my God, why have you forsaken me, ring out. Still that hour you must not feel alone, for you must know that you stand with God, or universal consciousness, whatever term. Then you are nearer to the heart of the loving Father than you have ever been before. You must know that hour you touch the deepest sorrow is the hour in which your greatest triumph begins. With all this, you must know that sorrows cannot touch you. From that hour, your voice will ring with a great free song, for you will know fully that you are the Christ, this light which is to shine among men and for men. Then you will know the darkness that is in every soul that cannot find a helping hand to clasp as he journeys on the rugged road before he finds the Christ within. You must know that you are truly divine, and being divine, you must see that all men are as you are. You will know that there are dark places you must pass with the light, that you are to carry to the highest, and your soul will ring out in praise that you can be of service to all men. Then with a glad free shout, you mount to your very highest in your union with God. And it goes on from there. But I thought that was interesting that even in the darkest of times that it's like if you hold on, it's the pinnacle right before you get to the greatest point of something good. So if there's anyone out there having a hard time or needing to hang on, I guess, because you could be just about to turn to one of your highest points. What do you think about that?
Well, it reminds me of this analogy of climbing the mountain of universal consciousness. That you start out crawling when you finally get beat up in the material realm and realize you got to turn around, and that you're not the meat, that you're the energy. You're the I guess when you discover that you're not meat having a spiritual experience, you're a spirit having a meat experience, and those are very different.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So it's talking about the essence of what you are. It's really the energy. So as it's taking the meat back up the mountain of universal consciousness to try to get back to where we fell from, it reminds me that sometimes you do fall, and sometimes it gets really dark and you can't see because you're in a ravine. Mm-hmm. But if you believe that there is light and that's what you're becoming, you keep striving for the light, even though things might be really, really, really dark, and it can take you to the darkest place where you feel like maybe the energy and the meat need to separate, So, but that's the place where victory, I guess, is I guess you call it the Faustian cliff experience. I don't know. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, okay. Well, you want to share that with people and continue reading Masters of the Far East? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Great books, and we really recommend them. And they're ones you can just reread and randomly pull from and get a little reconnection.
If we get enough people with enough money, we can reformulate the map and take a whole group of us over and have this experience.
That'd be awesome.
Because if it's true, there's some of them that are still there that were part of this scientific voyeur. And what was it, 1890 or 1900? When did they go?
Well, they're claiming that Jesus.
I don't know, but when did the group go over there?
In the 1800s, yeah. It's like 1890s.
So maybe we could regenerate that. So
that'd be awesome.
So this has been Gerald and Christa Clark with Seven Planet Broadcasting and the Artistic Vegan with inspirations of starting a yoga school and lots of other things that you have going on. You want to tell people what you got going on?
Yeah, just, recipes over at artisticvegan.com and some side yoga projects and the Gravity Body School that we're doing in April, of course.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so April 20th. For those of you that want to extend your online experience from learning structural integration to having a 5-week experience hands-on, giving and receiving the work, we're going to be doing that April 20th. So by March 20th, if you're not signed up, then we'll make a decision based on how many people are or aren't and whether it's going to happen or not. So sign up if you want to come, but before that time. So it's already January 20th, 21st. So by March 20th, please sign up, and I think it'll be an experience that you'll never forget. Okay? Okay. We'll talk to you guys later, and thanks for participating with our little morning dialogue.
Structure is function is energy. Get your chakras aligned today with gravitybodyacademy.com.